Hello, and welcome to today's episode. And today we're diving into one of the most profound yet often overlooked mysteries of the Christian faith, the silence between Good Friday and Easter Sunday. What happened when Jesus breathed his last? What was God doing during the 3 days when the world thought all was lost? This is not just theology, it's warfare, it's victory, it's hope for those moments when God seems silent. In this episode, we'll explore where Jesus went after he died, who he met in the unseen realms, what he declared, and why that silence is more sacred than many realize. So settle in, let's walk through the shadows together and discover the light awakened in the silence. Think for a moment of a completely silent room. No sound except your own breathing. Maybe you feel exposed. Maybe you feel something missing. Now imagine a silence so deep, so profound that it echoes through all creation, the world holding its breath. Between the cross, with its blood and thorns, and the resurrection, with its rolling away of stones, there is a gap, a silence, a mystery. Most Christians know Friday, the agony, the nails, the crown of thorns, and they know Sunday, the empty tomb, the risen Lord. But what about Saturday? What happened in those dark hours when it looked like the story was finished? What if I told you that those hours were not empty, that they were filled with unseen power, purpose, and victory? We begin at the cross, Jesus beaten, mocked, nailed. He cried out, "It is finished." Then he yielded up his spirit, Luke 23:46. His body was taken down, buried in a tomb, stone sealed, Roman guards posted. Yet, while his body lay still in the tomb, Scripture reveals his spirit did not remain idle. Heaven was working, the spiritual realms were in motion. The world saw death. The faithful, the disciples, saw despair. But something revolutionary was happening behind the veil. Let's talk about paradise as Jesus used the term, especially in Luke 23:43, where he tells the thief, "Today you will be with me in paradise." Paradise in Jewish thought was not heaven, as we often imagine. It was a place of peace, of rest, of waiting. It has also been called Abraham's bosom. This was the realm where the righteous dead, the patriarchs, prophets, faithful ones who died believing in God's promises, waited, not in torment, not yet in full glory, but with hope, with faith in promise yet to be fulfilled. The story tells us that immediately when Jesus died, one of the criminals beside him confessed, cried out in faith. Jesus said, "Today you will be with me in paradise." So Jesus enters into that place. It's the first stage of his descent. He goes to comfort, to fulfill the promise, to connect with those who waited. But the descent didn't end with paradise. There is a deeper, darker realm in which Jesus entered. In 1 Peter 3:18-19, it says, "He was put to death in the flesh, but made alive in the spirit, in which also he went and preached to the spirits in prison." Preached here comes from the Greek kerusso, meaning not simply evangelizing, but declaring, heralding, announcing with authority. Who are these spirits in prison? The transcript draws a connection to the ancient rebellion in Genesis 6. The sons of Ad, who took human wives, producing Nephilim, creatures of corruption, hybrids. Because of that grievous violation, God judged them, bound them, and cast them into a place of deep darkness, often called Tartarus, per 2 Peter 2:4, Jude 6. These are not merely symbolic. These are cosmic spirits, rebellious, evil, held in chains, awaiting final judgment. Jesus descends into that prison, not to negotiate, not to plead, but to pronounce defeat, to proclaim it is finished in the face of darkness, to confront the powers that have long challenged God's order. So, what did he declare? What was the message that rang out in those caverns? It was the same word from the cross. It is finished. But now, in the abyss, in the domain of forces, it was judicial. It was the verdict. It was a public casting down. Imagine the chaos in the spiritual world, the fallen rulers, authorities, the rulers of darkness, seeing the one they thought defeated standing alive, declaring victory, breaking chains. Paul later describes in Ephesians chapter 4:8-10. When he ascended on high, he led captivity captive and gave gifts to men. Now this he says that he ascended. What is it but that he also descended first into the lower parts of the earth? So this proclamation was not hidden. It echoed through eternity. It declared that the powers of sin, death, fear, judgment, they are broken. They are no longer masters. After the proclamation, the ascent, the resurrection, the victory, Jesus emerges from the silence, from the tomb, not just alive in body, but enthroned in authority. He leads captivity captive. He gives gifts to men. He fills all things. He holds the keys of death and Hades. Every power that held humanity in fear is now disarmed. This was no small event. It was cosmic in scope. The judicial court of heaven convened. Sin was judged. Satan's accusations answered. Death swallowed by victory. Why 3 days? Why the specific timeline? Jesus himself pointed to Jonah. For as Jonah was 3 days and 3 nights in the belly of the whale, so the Son of Man will be in the heart of the earth. Matthew 12:40. Prophecies like Hosea 6:2. After 2 days he will revive us, on the 3rd day he will raise us up. Echo this pattern. Even in Abraham's story with Isaac, Genesis 22:4, on the 3rd day, Abraham reached the place of sacrifice. Isaac was as good as dead until the substitute appeared. In Jewish burial customs, the 3rd day was seen as the point when death's grip is confirmed. After corruption had begun, after life seemed fully extinguished, only then could resurrection be unmistakable. The timing was never random. Every moment of silence, every hour in the tomb, was part of a script written long before the foundations of the world. Now, what does this mean for you, for me, especially in our own seasons of silence? When God seems distant, know he is not inactive. When mornings feel heavy, he is working behind the scenes. The silence is not always a sign of absence. Often, it's the space where destiny is being prepared. Because of what Jesus did in those 3 days, we are freed from the fear of death. We have hope even when outcomes seem sealed. We carry spiritual authority, gifts, purpose bestowed by his victory. Between the cross and the resurrection, something profound occurred. It wasn't a pause. It wasn't a setback. It was a proclamation of triumph, a descending into darkness so that he might ascend with power. When heaven fell silent, victory rang louder than ever. Thank you for listening. If this episode stirred your heart, share it with someone in a season of waiting. Until next time, keep faith alive until all is revealed. God's work in the silence is not wasted.